Okay, spring is the strongest selling season in the UK property market, without a doubt. Longer days, lighter moods, and buyers are eager to move before summer create a perfect conditions for achieving a faster sale and a higher price, which are so important. But here's the truth that most sellers miss. Homes don't sell well because it's spring. They sell well because sellers use spring strategically. Now, this show is going to break down these 5 practical, high impact areas that can instantly elevate your home's appeal, increase buyer competition, and help you secure the best possible price without, the most important thing, expensive renovations.
Mhm.
So, Perry, what's the first thing we've got to think about when we look at these 5 practical, high impact areas?
I think for me the key thing is the first impressions of the property, and that always starts at the front door, doesn't it? Let's be honest. People, if they can't see a positiveness when they pull up outside the house, it doesn't really bode well for the rest of the viewing experience that a potential buyer is going to have, does it?
Mhm.
And something actually I think that maybe not all sellers appreciate as well is the fact that actually your curb appeal really matters more than ever and above everything else, because sometimes, and we've seen it, viewers will actually do a little drive round before they even book their viewing. So you've no idea really who has got visibility on your property. So how it is addressed from the get-go is, for me, probably the highest factoring point. And what you're going to be looking at with things like that are what the buyers make emotional decisions.
Yeah.
They're directed with that in seconds. And literally, it is your first impression. And sometimes you don't get a second chance at a first impression. So it's really vital. And I think with the warmer season approaching, you've got a bit more light as well. Early mornings, you've got later in the evenings, you've got just so much more welcoming atmosphere that you're
Mhm.
creating. And in spring, the expectations absolutely do rise because people potentially have kind of been going through this dark winter that we've had, quite a wet one this year. And so are really excited about coming into spring and moving home potentially. So the things
What
you
should what should people focus on then? What is the main things that they should focus on? The sellers in particular.
For me, the main things they should focus on are making sure the garden's tidy. It's been a battle getting through winter, isn't it? So we're coming into spring. So tidy up your garden. By that, we're meaning mow the lawns if it's ready for to be done, trimming hedges, because again, they're not really that green at the moment. So again, just tidying those up really helps. And also add some seasonal plants. We're starting to see those in the garden centres now. You know, you go to Aldi's, B&M's, Home Bargains, they've all got them outside now. So they're absolutely starting to show that you can have colour in your gardens. So those things for me are really the key things. But the biggest thing when you've come out of winter going into spring as well is actually your pathways, because it's been quite wet and so they look quite green and kind of grubby. So again, making sure that they've been really cleaned up well is a really good thing to do. But a real basic one that people often forget for me are your windows and your doors. People
Yeah.
forget to keep those clean. And I'm not just talking about the glass, I'm talking about if you've got white windows, UPVC windows, just washing the glass isn't enough. You need to kind of wipe around all that surrounding as well, and your window sills. Same with your front door, because they're really important factors for someone who's viewing as well, because instantly what you're doing without realizing it is you're telling that person who's viewing your property that the house is loved and it has that
Yeah.
really welcoming feeling right from the beginning.
You get quite a build up things like wee spiders webs and cocoons over the time. It's
You do.
setting all these wee nooks and crannies around about the window, don't you? And
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
underneath the sill itself, that's
Mhm.
quite revealing as well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, cleaning all these sills. What do you do with UPVC then? Do you get certain type of cleaners to clean UPVC?
You can, but in all honesty, I'm a fairy girl. Literally a bit of washing up liquid in a bowl with some nice warm water and a good cloth is a great thing to do. To be honest, Jim, actually, I should probably be asking you this question because of your background. What
Yeah,
should someone use?
started off with
Because
a window
you
cleaner,
were
eh?
in that industry as a family.
Yeah, well, I would actually take a brush. So a pail of soapy water and a brush. and then just wash it all down around the actual outside of the window itself, the sills and the facings and everything like that, and wash that all down as much as you can, and get right in there with the brush, get everything out of there, let it all dry out, and just before it's nearly dry, start to wipe it down. If you leave it too long and you let it dry out, you'll probably get dried marks, which is the runs on your actual paintwork or on your UPVC, especially if it's white, definitely. So you want to wipe that down, the UPVC and everything, just before it dries, kind of just like doing your car, if anybody understands that as well. And then you go and wash the window at the back of it.
The window's always the last thing, isn't it?
And watch out for the dirt that goes down onto your paintwork, on your masonry, on your bricks as well, and all that dirt goes into there. So make sure you wash all that off as well, so it doesn't dry into it either and leave stains.
Yeah, that's important actually, because it will leave stains otherwise. And I think while we're talking about that outside piece as well, for me, even you see it yourself when you go around properties, the door numbers are faint. So if you've got painted ones that are on maybe stone by the side of the house, if they're all faded, that doesn't look great. And, you know, if you've got a door number on your actual physical door, again, if that's rusted or has been a bit dull, you know, get a little cleaner on that as well and get those really brightened up. Like a brasso or a silver cleaner, something like that is really good for kind of buffing those up and making them shine too. Because again, it's just about that first impression, isn't it? And it's about that welcomingness that someone will feel when they approach the property. So I think that that's really important as well. And again, your front door, if it is a wooden one that you have, it's great to put a fresh lick of paint on those, perhaps a fresh staining, get another varnish on that as well. I think for me is really important, because again, it just looks so much fresher and brighter, and it really can make it look so much nicer for people coming on board. I think for me, that actually, if you do those activities and people then approach the property in that way, it can actually give you some outsized returns. And what I mean by that is actually that people want to then come over the doorstep. They're then enjoying the journey before it's begun. And the chances are they're probably going to offer a better offer when they feel that it's cared for. When things are dull and dingy, people tend to think, I'm going to be quite clever here and strategic. I might get this property cheaper.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sophie, have you got anything to add to that in terms of the curb appeal itself and what the things they focus on?
So it's very much true that if buyers don't like what they see outside, they won't necessarily fall in love inside. And it is a big part to pay. And then something that Perry's just touched on there is the dark and dingy piece. So then naturally that leads us into light sells homes, and all about letting that light flood in, because if it's dark and it's dingy, it's not great at all, because then you naturally think this is small, it's closed in, it's not light, it's not airy. So light absolutely sells home as well, and let that flood in. And it's a lot easier to let it flood in if you have done the tips of cleaning your windows and making sure that's all clean, because naturally it will obviously bring that light in. Spring, of course, as we've spoke about, we've gone through a very, very wet winter. It's been dull and miserable. So spring, obviously, instantly buyers crave that brightness, but also the warmth and then naturally the space that comes with that. And there's many instant upgrades that you can do for obviously letting that light flood in. There's some that we might be saying this and it might seem like it's really obvious, but you'd be surprised. Not everybody does it when it comes to like getting ready your house for the market and viewings and photographs, but really simple things. Open your curtains and blinds fully so that we can really see obviously that light flooding in, and it allows people to also see if you've perhaps got a view or outdoor garden space, because actually if somebody walks into perhaps your living room and there's a window that looks over the rear and you've got a gorgeous garden that's in bloom and it just looks perfect. Again, people are excited. They can't wait to get outside and get into that space. So it naturally helps that viewing, and people do really engage with that. So think about opening your curtains and blinds. Not only are we cleaning the windows outside, but please make sure we clean them inside as well, especially if you've got little fingerprints or little nose marks from any little pets you may have. Think about all of that. So clean the outside, but likewise make sure we're putting that same care and attention to the inside. Then when we think about light as well, it's not necessarily just the light that's coming from out with, it's the light that we already have within our homes. So think about perhaps floor standing lamps, table lamps, bedside cabinet lamps. And then when we think about the lamps as well, and this is again something we speak about quite a lot, is the bulbs that you're actually using within the lamps. And how replacing perhaps low watt or duller ones with warmer, bright, perhaps even LED, how that can also make a great impact as well. But again, something we also like to preach about is if we are changing the light bulbs and we are doing lamps, please don't forget to also clean the lampshades and also the bulbs, because dust settles there as well. And there's no point going to all of this great effort if then you've got a really dusty, caked bulb that the light's not coming through anyway. So it might seem like this is all perhaps obvious to some, but it is all these little tips that really do help. And I was just at a property yesterday doing our pre-portal, and it was out of all the days that we've had, it was a fantastic day for it. And the mirrors being placed strategically makes such a difference because it allows that light to bounce off it. And then it naturally makes that room feel brighter and lighter and then more spacious. But again, and it might seem like we're harping on about it, we're giving you a massive to-do list of cleaning and jobs and chores, but again, please make sure that that mirror is clean of dust, fingerprints. It always happens, and as soon as that light hits it, it really does unveil it all. So just make sure, yes, we're placing them strategically within our spaces, but they're also clean as well, because ultimately dark homes feel smaller, sometimes even older as well, and naturally less inviting, even if it is a glorious day. The days that we do get in Scotland that are lovely in spring, summer, if you perhaps aren't doing all these things, it can make that home feel less inviting.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I think if I go back to the first impressions at the front door, though, the things that I would highlight as well, it would go additional, as I'd said before, is things like you've got to watch out for the coping stones on your wall. Definitely. So that's one of the things that everybody misses all the time, because you get the kids that sit on your wall all the time, more than likely, and they do wobble over time. So I think these sort of things, and maybe loose bricks at the top, loose bricks at the drive, things like your edging that goes around your garden as well. These are all small things that you think don't really make such a difference, but I think it does in the mind of the buyer when they go round. Is that not right, Perrie?
I think that's a great point, actually. And funnily enough, I was at a property yesterday doing a valuation, and I was out in the garden, and the garden was superb. And in this discussion, we're talking about the beginning. And for me, what I really found a little bit off-putting, and buyers will feel the same way, is that it was announced when I was going through the garden down the steps, oh, be careful of those steps because they're a bit wobbly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was really wet, it was a bit slidey, and it was wobbly. So instantly myself, I felt uneasy. So it was like a negative emotion that statement had created, because then I had kind of got a bit apprehensive waiting to stand on it. And then I stood on it, then it wobbled. And then I thought, oh, I don't like this. And so all those emotions went through my mind.
It probably then leads to the fact that the seller should really get us round earlier, so we could actually test all these things in advance, and that way they've even got time to actually fix something. Because the last thing as a seller you want to do is think, right, now I'm ready to sell, and then the agent walks in the door and goes, well, you've kind of got to, you should really fix this, you should fix that, you should fix this, and they're completely oblivious to it. And then it doesn't give them much time, because they've now put themselves under pressure, potentially because they've maybe committed to something else. And then they've gone, we're just going to have to go for it now. And I think that's the most important thing when you look at it from the outside, especially at this time of year. It's so difficult to get your lawn mowed. It's like, because everything's wet all the time. And if you've left it for the whole of the winter, then you're going to be struggling to get all that cut and the hedges trimmed and everything like that. It comes as well. The hedges you've got to watch out for, and trees as well, if you want to trim them. This is probably now about the time to do it, just before the birds start nesting. Yes. Because, legally, you ain't supposed to be touching any hedges or any trees if there's birds' nests in them. Yeah. Absolutely. Only found out that due to my detriment. We went to go, let's cut these conifers in the back garden. And Rod's went, there's birds' nests in them. And I'm like, and he went, can't do anything about them. Can't
Nope.
touch them until the bird's nest is empty and there's
Mhm.
nothing there anymore. So we had to wait almost about a year to do that. So we had this big massive conifer. All the rest were cut, and this just big massive one sitting there. So you kind of want to get these things done in advance. And you're absolutely right. The fresh lick of paint, the coping stones, loose stones that you're stepping on, things like that as well. It makes a fundamental difference in somebody's mind. And as you said, Perry, it's often somebody will just drive around, they'll have a look, and they'll put it. I've seen it happen before, where they've just basically driven away.
Yeah.
And then they phoned up and says, just cancel my viewing.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have had that scenario.
why? Why? The reason? What is the reason why? It's like, because I've looked at it already and I just don't like it from the outside.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And it could be the most beautiful property when you go in it, but it's that expectation and the image that's already been impacted. It was like that negative experience I had yesterday when the stones were moving and I was walking. Instantly, it's not something that you feel welcoming to. And also for me, I think many times buyers focus on inside rather than outside. I was at another property recently that has just been being renovated, and I went out into the garden and all the paint pots and brushes and scrapings and bits of wood were all lying in the patio
Still
area.
left it.
Yeah, and you just can't be doing those things because that's the first thing that someone will see. So whilst you think you've done a great job because you've done all these interior things, well, actually, if you've forgotten about the outside, you're on a hide into nothing because they're not over the door yet.
Yeah. So when it's the classic example is what Sophie said to the now. If buyers don't actually like what they see outside, they'll probably not fall in love with what's inside.
Yeah.
And then when we talked about the thing about the light selling the homes and letting it all flood in, it is so important to do that. Is there anything else that Sophie had discussed you think we could do additional in that category, Perry, in terms of the light and how we could do things?
I think lighting is a really clever thing about a property because it does actually give the flow of the property nicely. So whilst we talked about moving curtains and blinds open and making sure they're clean, because there's nothing worse if you've got Venetian blinds and there's dust all lying on them, it just doesn't look great. But actually something that's not always considered is actually what you've got in front of your windows.
Yeah.
Because the property is designed for how you live, and that's fine because it's your home and you want it to be comfortable. But when you're looking to sell a property, you have to think about it from the eyes of a buyer. I was at a property the other day, for instance, and they had lots of internal plants, which were wonderful. But actually, at the window, it was like a jungle. From the outside, you couldn't see through the window inside. And from inside, you absolutely could hardly see anything on the outside.
You do get that, especially in some people's kitchens.
Yeah, yeah.
It's quite a common thing in a conservatory as well. That's quite a common thing as well. It's almost like, I mean, it's nice to sit in amongst it, but generally when you walk in some places, it's like you kind of think to yourself, is this a greenhouse or is it actually a conservatory?
Yes, exactly. I mean, this was the lounge space. And so, the advice I gave was actually, it's great that you've got them because people will like that. But absolutely, all of the ones that are in front of the window will need to be moved because it was floor to ceiling windows. So it was really prominent and there was just so much opportunity to let light into the property and it just wasn't happening. So it was that kind of conversation that we always say, do you want us to sugarcoat it or do you want us to be honest? And I said, it looks great, but not for prospective buyers, and actually for the video work and the photography work as well, you're not going to get as much light in because when you're taking your photographs and doing the video work, all that daylight was being hidden really because it was a mask in front of the window. So absolutely consider that as well, and not just plants, but I'm not picking on plants, but also furniture. Some people will put chairs in front of the window or they'll put units in front of the window, and that's fine. But again, you want the house to flow nicely and for people to see the space. So I think blocking out windows for me is a no-no.
That nicely then takes us to the decluttering. For me personally, I think it's one of the most important things anybody can do. Especially, I mean, I've lived in my house for I think 20 years. It's like the amount of rubbish I would say I've accumulated is unbelievable. For want of a better word, as I could say something more, but I'm not wanting to say it here. But everybody knows what it starts with. It's a C, but the amount of rubbish I've accumulated over the years, you think, oh, I'll keep that, and I'll keep this, and I'll keep that, and I've even got things that are broken. sitting in the house that I think I'll keep it just in case I could fix it or I could get spares out of it.
Oh, it's that rainy day item.
Yeah, it's kind of, and then the things that you don't really have, the things that you think, oh, it's just like, I need to get out of the house, but I still want to keep a hold of it. It ends up in the garage.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, just get rid of it. And that's the most important thing. It's for me, it's probably the biggest mistake sellers make. They're showing buyers how they live instead of helping buyers imagine how they could live. What is the priority things that we need to focus on when we actually come to decluttering?
Priorities, I would say, is, and again, it's almost like those first impressions. When you come through that front door, you want to have a clear entrance where you want to have clear hallways, or if you've got an entrance vestibule area, you want it to be clear. So yeah, it's great and practical if it's somewhere where you house your coats, your shoes, your brollies, all of that. But if somebody comes through the front door and they're kind of having to fight to get past it and move things out the way to get in.
Just shimmy through the front door. And it's like, what does that tell you straight away? Everything's behind the door and you can't even get the door open properly.
No, absolutely not. And that is a big thing as well. So yes, while it is practical for you living there, when it comes to viewings and showing people around the home, if we can just strip it back so we're not fighting to get through, that is a big thing.
I tell you the one that does it the most when you get in the front door is if somebody's got a shoe rack. Poo-wee!
Yeah.
Straight away. You've blown it straight away before you walk in the door, because it's the whole thing about nose blind, isn't it? You don't know it's like that because you live with it all the time. But the reality is that's why it's important to get a fresh pair of a fresh nose, I suppose, a fresh pair of eyes to actually see or smell the fact that it's like you need to get rid of the shoe rack. Even if you put out the back or something like that, and in the foyer at the kitchen through the back at the back door or something like that, at least it'll be out the way. And they put some air fresheners behind doors and stuff like that. It is so important, isn't it, Sophie?
Massively, absolutely, because that is you've got them to fall in love with the outside space, and then they're coming in, and as you said, Jim, if they're then hit with perhaps not a nice smell, or if they are fighting with different objects, it's not a great first impression for coming into that entrance space.
Yeah.
Then they've gone through that part, and then they're in your rooms. They're obviously doing the walkthrough and viewing the property and the spaces. And as you've touched on, it's not showing buyers how you live, it's how they are going to live and how they are going to work in that space and make it work for them and their family. So while obviously, yes, it is still your home and you're perhaps still living in that property, we do need to think about perhaps minimizing the furniture to absolutely maximize the space. Now, we're not exactly saying to completely strip it back. We don't want it bare, but we do need to be able to see that floor space and how can that room work for prospective buyers. And like I just had it with a property in Lucas that's coming to market, and it's their living room. And for them, they don't have the sofa pushed up against the wall. They have their sofa at an angle. So there's then all this dead space. So the wall's here. You've then got all of this dead space and the sofa doesn't start till here. So the sofa's actually protruding right into the living room. And I had to say to the lady, absolutely, that's how you've got it for now. But see, for the video, photography and viewings, that sofa needs to be pushed right back against that wall, because effectively that's dead space. It makes the room feel so crammed in because the sofa ends here, the rug starts here, so you think your living room only starts at the sofa. And it's such a big thing.
That's one of the reasons I used to roll up the big rugs. I used to roll the big rugs up when I did the videos, before I did the videos, and also for the photographs, because the big sometimes some people, I mean, it's great because maybe it's a wooden floor or it's a laminate floor, so they like the rug, the idea of the rug, but some rugs just overpower the whole room.
Absolutely. And that is a big thing. So we're not necessarily saying to get rid of everything. We're just saying think about the positioning, and just like Perrie's touched on, if there's perhaps furniture within a window, it's all about being strategic with the placement just to really maximize the sense of space. Because as well, something we speak about quite a lot is what illusion does it give off? So Perrie, you speak about this quite a lot in terms of if there's like a long hallway and if there's perhaps a long runner with a little console table, how it gives that illusion. And it is all about that as well, helping the buyer really understand that space and how it can work for them. Another thing with decluttering, and it's a question I know I get asked a lot, and I'm sure you guys do as well, but it's, do I need to remove my personal photos? Do I need to take my photos down in the frames and family pictures and everything? So it's about removing those personal photos. Some people don't mind them being displayed and them being up.
It's a bit of balance, though, isn't it? Because I mean, sometimes if you, the one for me is if you start removing all the photographs that have been up there on the wall for, I don't know, the last 15 years, you'll just see big, massive new paint bits where it's been covering and the rest is actually just marked. So for me, it's like possibly just leave them where they are then. If it's going to cause a huge problem, and the fact that you remove all these photographs, the next minute you've got to paint the whole hall, and it's like, okay, the whole hall looks, everything else stand out, so I've got to start painting everything else. So it's like, leave the photos.
Yeah, it's not just that for me as well. It's not just about the fact that you need to redecor. I think if you there's decluttering, and then there's, in my mind, devaluing how a property looks, because you don't want it to feel so cold and clinical that it doesn't feel like a home and it doesn't feel warming. And sometimes actually your personal parts add to the property. So it's about striking that right balance, Jim. You're absolutely right.
And then striking the right balance also then comes back to perhaps if there is really bold decor, that absolutely that is your taste and that is your style. However, for the purpose of selling and finding your buyer and helping them imagine that space, sometimes perhaps really garish decor can be a bit overpowering, that actually that decor takes over the viewing almost, and takes over because somebody walks into that room and they focus more about the decor and how it makes them feel and their initial reaction to it, that they forget that there's perhaps a gorgeous view from this room, or perhaps that it's got lovely high ceilings and ornate features. They just can't see it because there's perhaps really bold decor.
Black. That's it. Just black. You walk in the door and it's like black in a bedroom, because it's maybe the teenage bedroom, and it's like, geez, but that's the first thing people are going to focus on when they walk in that bedroom.
100%.
Absolutely, because then their mind naturally starts going to, and it's all about mindset. They then start going, oh, well, I'm going to need to do that, and then I'm going to need to do this. So then they start thinking of, before they've even moved in, the jobs that they're going to need to do, and I'm going to have to get that covered and decorate that. And then it is the mindset, and then naturally they think, oh, okay, well, if I need to do that, that, and that, I'm going to be a little bit cheeky with my offer, because actually it's not how I want it. So I'm going to perhaps need to change that. So it then snowballs, and it is just something as simple as, it's your decor, it's your style of your home.
That becomes a bone of contention, doesn't it, in negotiations, especially with us, with the fact that when we sit in the middle of this negotiation between the two parties, one says, I don't want it like that, so I'm going to have to spend all that money to do it. Where the other one, the seller, actually turns around and says, well, that's not my problem, that's their personal tastes. So it becomes a wee bit of conflict for the two of them with each other. So it's good to have a really strong negotiator in between, in order to negotiate on behalf of a win-win situation.
I would completely agree with that, because you do get that situation where sometimes buyers have that mental checklist of jobs that need doing, and then suddenly they want the seller to pay for that. and it doesn't work like that.
It's like, okay, well, I'll get you a new car at the same time.
Exactly.
Do you want the taps gold plated by any chance? And I do cover that quite easily. I just say, well, that's your own personal taste at the end of the day. But if you want them to do it, they can do what you want, but it will add to the value of the property. And then I would have to get the property revalued again, and it would probably put it up about another £5,000 or £10,000. So what would you like to do?
Yep.
So that's a good one for if you're trying to sell the house yourself, or the agent doesn't do the viewings, and you're stuck and you're having to do the viewings and negotiate on your own behalf, then that's a really good one to use with the buyer themselves. Just say to them, look, if I do all these things you want to do, and I could do them for you, it will add the value of the property, and then I can get it revalued, and you can make the offer based on that revaluation. Because then they could possibly mortgage that against the bank, because the revaluation would be higher then, if that's the case. So they would actually get that paid for in part of the percentage of the mortgage that they actually get. So it's maybe another way to do that and be a bit more creative with the finance of the buyer, if it might be just a wee bit out of their reach, or if because of the fact that they might have to do all these things to it. So it's another way to do it.
Absolutely. And then a good one for, obviously this is all about obviously decluttering. So the key point here is think about your cupboard spaces. Yes, while you've been living there, it's almost been that forgotten space that you just chuck everything in, hope that the door closes, and it's almost out of sight, out of mind. That's it. But yes, while perhaps we as an agency don't always open cupboards in our videos and showcase that, when that viewer comes through the door, they want to understand what storage space they have, if any. So if perhaps that storage space, they then open the door and we're all trying to catch things as they come fumbling out, or if perhaps the door doesn't even close to begin with, or if you've got all of these cupboards and they aren't in great order, it just shows that perhaps there's not enough space for a lived-in home. There's not enough storage. So yes, it seems tedious. It's one of those jobs that we always put off, and we'll always get to that drawer. We'll always get to that cupboard. We'll do it on a rainy day or anything like that. It does need to become a priority as well, because buyers do look inside this. And this is where it's great, because it seems like a really big task, but if you just break it down into manageable little bite-sized pieces, and to give you a little bit of a hand, there is actually a decluttering blog that we know clients have used, so it really is effective. And the link will be in here for you to click, read through it, and really put into practice decluttering, and just do it cupboard by cupboard, bit by bit. And when we say cupboard as well, we don't perhaps just mean your understair cupboards, or perhaps your kind of upper landing cupboard. Also think about if you've got pantries, your kitchen cupboards, even the drawers. Think about all these things, because again, in kitchens, I've had it where clients will literally open every single cupboard, every single drawer, just to get an understanding of what that space looks like. So do think about seriously decluttering, because as well, if you declutter now, it's less to have to move and catch it somewhere else to just then store it somewhere else.
There's two areas I think that buyers might be forgiven in terms of clutter. So if you do have stuff that you want to take with you, and you just can't put it into storage because it's not possible, maybe you don't have storage units available to rent near you, and there's two areas I think most buyers will forgive you for. It's the attic,
100%.
and it's the garage. It's the garage, and that's the two areas that people go, yeah, okay, I understand they're moving. As long as it's so obvious, it's maybe boxed up already, and they know that, yeah, well, they're going anyway. And that just, I know, even if your stuff's in there and it's not boxed up, people actually think, I can't get in there. It's like, but it's not going to be there. So why would it bother you? You can't get in there, because it won't be there when you buy it and when you move in. But it's actually just making it easy for them, I think, in their mind, to just go down that road and think, oh yeah, okay, that's going with you. I'll automatically just think that if it's boxed up properly, and it's maybe got something written on it about, you know, whatever it is, and they know, yeah, it's obviously self-explanatory. I think that's the two things that most buyers will actually forgive you for in terms of storage, definitely.
I would agree. And for me as well, in the kitchens, and that's more so recently, I've been seeing this, and you're right, Sophie, when you said it, is I'm absolutely seeing buyers now opening kitchens because they want to open the doors. They're testing, are they soft close? Are they going to slam? Is there enough space? How does it function? So it wasn't something that used to happen, but definitely more so now. It is a particular thing. And
it was never a thing, was it?
No, it was never a thing. You just
years ago, it was never a thing with your doors shut and slammed and everything like that. But nowadays, it's like, oh, it's soft close, brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. But again, what that does though is it just gives that, again, that additional luxury feeling that you're
more refined,
yeah. And when you're opening like the cutlery drawers now, well, they're not cutlery drawers anymore. They're like big pull-out drawers, and then they've got the cutlery drawer inside, and people want to see all that because, again, it's this positive mentality of tidiness, efficiency, but also a bit luxury, and you're quite happy to pay then for have that.
So this then brings us on then, and that's absolutely fine. And we've got a declutter blog in there, which we'll go intensely into. You could read it anyway. It's like 4 minutes long, as Sophie said. So you can just click on it and read it, and it'll give you a really good insight into declutter, because I think it's one of the most important things. But the next most important thing, just up there with everything else, which will add which will add value in the buyer's minds, is to, I think you've got to fix the obvious. It's fixing the obvious. It's this sort of fresh approach, the hiding the air fresheners and stuff like that, and neutralising these odours. What should we really concentrate on then, Sophie, when we're doing these sort of things?
It is, and we're not expecting you to do a full renovation. It's not a full renovation we're asking. It's small changes for a big return, and that is the key here. But we do need to remove reasons for buyers to negotiate you down and be cheeky with their offers. So think about high return touch-ups. If you've perhaps got walls, skirtings that have been, especially in the high footfall areas, naturally the entrance hallway and stairs, if you've got a utility space as well and you've got a dog and they've splashed mud up the walls, or there's like marks and things like that, 9 times out of 10 you've still got the paint in the shed or the garage. You've got the paint somewhere. So just take that time to go around and do the touch-ups and just really make it fresh, because again, as we keep saying, it gives the illusion of a cared for home. Something as well to think of is if you've got perhaps that leaky tap or that squeaky door. I've seen it in even doing the pre-portals where you've just started to record, you're doing it, and then you shut the doors as you do it. So you're like, oh, need to start. So it isn't. It's all these little things. It's all these little things. So if you've got a leaky, drippy tap, fix that. If you've also got a toilet that even after you flushed it, 20 minutes later, it's still trickling away and making a noise, what can we do to fix that?
Yeah.
Squeaky doors. It's all these little things, because again, people are tuned into this when they're doing that viewing. They are tuned into all of their senses.
So
it's
really
like
interesting.
It's like what you said, Perrie. It's like the house isn't cared for then. If you have all these wee bits, especially things like you've got sticky valves on the radiators. So when you're walking halfway around and all of a sudden the radiator starts juddering, and it's there's nothing wrong with the radiator. It's just the pin in the valve opening and shutting constantly because it's needing service. That's all. Just a small minor adjustment, but it just sends out the wrong impression, doesn't it, Perrie?
It does. It totally gives out the wrong message. And actually, Sophie, your comment there about the dripping taps, this was absolute. I don't know how many viewings I've done and how many properties that I've valued, hundreds, but I've never ever experienced this. And 2 weeks ago, I took a couple to a viewing, and again, because I don't really know much about them as such and how they live just now, because they lived out of area, but it was the first time that someone has ever asked me when they've gone into the bathrooms if they can actually test the shower pressure.
The water pressure,
they wanted to turn the showers on, and I've never had that before. I've never had it before. And to be honest, it kind of caught me on the hop. I was like, should they, shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It used to be a thing when the condenser boilers first came in, the combi boilers as well. They first came in, and what happened was the boilers were never installed with the amount of kilowatt. In other words, the heating wasn't high enough. The kilowatt on the boiler wasn't high enough to keep up with heating the water at the flow rate it was going at. So in other words, the water was maybe running at, I don't know, 30 litres a minute or something like that. And the boiler was only able to heat maybe about 20 litres a minute at any one point in time. That's the sort of thing. So you would have to actually turn the pressure down on the tap, the flow rate on the tap. So the boiler, it would back up into the boiler. So the boiler would have time to actually heat the water up on a combi boiler. It's not a thing now, but yes, I've had it before because of that. And some areas as well, especially when we moved into our house, it was low pressure. We actually had to get a new main installed because we were putting 20 radiators in our house, and that wasn't in before. We had 2 separate heating systems, one upstairs, one downstairs. We took the whole lot out, put one in, and because of that, we had to have a new main feed put in. And it was actually, they had to dig up the road and everything to get that, just to be able to run one heating system. So that's why it is a thing for some people.
Yeah, well, definitely was a thing. So the drip and tap thing is big for me as well. But the other thing as well, which I know we're talking about fixing the obvious, and this might not seem obvious, but absolutely it's something that you should take care of if it's an issue that you have in your home, because so many people are working from home now as well. This particular couple also tested the Wi-Fi. They wanted to make sure, because he worked at home, that he was going to get good connection and pretty instant. And that's, again, a really powerful thing just now, just with the way that everyone lives now, isn't it?
Yeah. I had that with somebody was, I think it was a couple that were over from Germany, and they actually bought a house in the East Neuk because of this, because I had demonstrated that the Wi-Fi was actually good enough to stream live video for them, because they did a lot of online conferencing all the time. So, so I made sure that was all right before they basically walked in the door, and we was able to demonstrate that to them, and that's why they ended up taking that house in the East Neuk. The one for me though is really gets me is and it happens quite a few times, because water ingress gets under them, is the tiles in the bathroom and the tiles in the kitchen. You know, the water sometimes comes out when somebody's drying in the bathroom, or when somebody's, you know, maybe opened the dishwasher or the washing machine, the water's come out. There's maybe been a defective seal, the water's got underneath, and then over a period of time it's loosened off, and then eventually the tiles have cracked, and you can't get replacements for them.
Yeah. It's grubby looking as well, isn't it, though? Because you've got that, the dirt is inevitably will get in there, and that looseness, and it just doesn't look refreshing.
I know a quick fix though. If you can't get the tiles right, level off the floor with the tiles, and just put a good quality linoleum right across the top, and you just shave a bit off the door. That's it. You'll get away with that. It works. Or you could just disrupt everything, and you could take the whole lot up and put a whole lot down. It's entirely up to yourself, but 9 times out of 10, a good bit of linoleum across the top of the floor, or vinyl, was cushion floor vinyl or something like that, was absolutely perfect. And you just take a bit off the bottom of the door so it opens into the bathroom or the kitchen, and that's a really good that's a good measure to sort it in the short term. Ideally, most people move in and they end up changing bathrooms if it's been a house that's had it for about 15 years, or they'll change a kitchen, because, you know, you could walk into my kitchen, and I know when I walk into my kitchen, it's fine as far as I'm concerned. But then I notice the things like the marks and the worktop, and then I notice the things like the facings coming off some of the kicker boards and stuff like that. And it's like you kind of live with it, but you don't realise it's there until you actually go to sell, and people go, "I'm going to have to change the kitchen." But you said a great thing, Perrie, the other day to me. You says, "Why do you not just get them vinyl wrapped?"
Yeah, vinyl wrapping is a really great way to do it. When you sold my house, Jim, that was what, 6 years ago now? That's exactly what we did, because between the kitchen and the utility space, there was something like 20 units, and we knew we were selling, so I wasn't going to spend tens of thousands of pounds putting a new kitchen in. So we vinyl wrapped it, and we vinyl wrapped the whole kitchen. I think it was about £1,500, and it was like a brand new kitchen. It went from a kind of dark brown to a white gloss kitchen pretty much instantly. So it's a really good way to do it, and just give that first impression. And then through time, as you said, the new buyers will change the kitchen maybe in a year or two, but it's not something they feel they can't live with at the moment if you kind of spruce it up a little bit. And that's what you have to kind of transfer that positive set mind to them.
Yeah, definitely. What other things do we need to consider then, Sophie, when we're looking at this?
Something you've already mentioned it, Jim, nose blind. And it's about neutralizing odors. And sometimes it does take that, as you said, fresh nose to come in and have that frank conversation and say, look, do you need me to sugarcoat this, or can I tell you because it's within your best interest? However, there's perhaps odors, whether it be pets, whether it be you've got stinking shoes at the front door, whether it be there's perhaps damp in the property, or even cooking smells. I've had it with a property before, and I had to have the conversation because it was the bin. It was the bin in the kitchen, and it just needed cleaned. Well, it needed emptied and then cleaned. And you can get all little things like even little bin, little fresheners, if that helps. But it's all these little things. And
Madras curry. Don't cook curry or anything the night before you're viewing, for goodness sake, because it just the whole place stinks. It's and just
Fish
what it
Friday
is.
Avoid as well.
Yeah, and it's the you said about the dogs. It's like I always remember that, and I tell this story all the time, and it's a really good analogy. It's the worst case scenario. They couldn't understand why they couldn't get their house sold. It's in the most desirable area in Kirkcaldy, and everybody wanted their house. And with the previous agent, everybody walked through the door, but they were all put off, and they couldn't understand why, because the agent hadn't fed back anything back to them. And even though it said, the agent went, "Oh, everything's fine," and I walked in the door, I went, "Oh my God, your house stinks of dog." is in it's in everything. It's in your suite, it's in your carpets, it's in your walls, it's on your curtains. I could smell it all. They actually just thought it was the dog beds. I went, no, it's everywhere. So they spent they changed to me. They spent the whole weekend. They painted the place top to bottom. They washed all the curtains. They washed all the cushions. They washed all the carpets. And by Monday, when we put it on the market, had it sold within the week. Just like that, just because they did that. And it's that honesty as well. My biggest bugbear, bathrooms with the sealants.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, and the grout. And it's just left, and it's like dirty, and it's like, oh well, I can't really get it out because it's ingrained now. It's like, oh, you need to, because it just sends out the wrong message. Or you've got a what is it, the scum on the actual the glass of the shower. It's like you need to get that off. It just looks so unsightly. It'll put people off straight away. That's one of the things, and that's what it is really. I mean, we're probably going to move on to the next subject, which is the Price is Right from day one, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And I'll come to you, Perrie, about this. But I think I would close off this one by saying buyers mentally overprice small problems. We've all seen it, haven't we?
Yeah.
Remove them and protect your asking price. That's probably the most important thing for this one. And this then takes us from the asking price. Price it right from day one. Spring is not a safety net for selling. It's so many people have heard, I'll wait till spring, I'll wait till spring, I'll wait till spring. Okay, you can wait till spring if you want. You're going to have a lot more buyers in the market because you're going to have a lot more sellers as well that you're competing against if you're waiting till spring. And that's why you've got to get the price right from day one. Perrie, what's the most, on this subject, what could you advise people?
Absolutely, for me, spring markets reward well-priced homes. And as you say, it helps you outplay that competition as well. It's absolutely not the time to go for optimistic pricing.
Yeah.
For the reasons you've said, Jim, more property will come to market because it is like a broken record. We hear it a lot. We're going to wait till spring. So your smart pricing strategy has to be right from the get-go. So for me, you absolutely need your agent to be using up-to-date local sold data. And this is the key.
Yeah.
Sold data, not what a house went to market for, but actually what did it sell for? Because
last year I got my next door neighbour last year got 10% more. That was £20,000. That's what I'm wanting more this year as well. It's like, wait a minute, it's a different market. Unemployment's gone up, inflation's gone up, and the banks won't lend, and prices have gone up as well to reflect that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So it's a different market.
It is a different market, and I think that's the key. If you're thinking of using last year's headlines because your mate or your sister or whomever got a fantastic number, it's not necessarily what the market's doing just now. So for you to actually use local current data for sold houses is vital. And if you've got multiple different numbers from multiple different agencies because you've been quite clever and you've reached out, again, very important to challenge that agency to demonstrate to you where that number has come from.
100%.
And I know most just guess. Well, exactly. They don't guess. They have a good guesstimate. I mean, I'm saying the guess, but it's not as trite as I say it is. It's more they know roughly where it's going to be, but quite a few of them actually don't do any back work before they walk out the door, and they've not really got any comparables to show to say this is where it comes from, because this one up the road sold 2 weeks before for this price. Now it's on at that price, but we know from a surveyor that they actually got this price, but it's still to conclude. So these are good indicators. Plus the fact we've got that knowledge and expertise as well with ones that we've sold in the similar area as well, and they've maybe not concluded yet, but we know what they sold for. So we're able to give a good indication of that. The one thing for me right now is, and I did it. I mean, you know, I had said to most people I'm going to sell my house in Spain, and I went over there, and just at the beginning of the year, I went over there and I spoke to the agent, and I said, so what sort of market is this like just now? And he went, now, the last time I was over there and I'd spoken to the upstairs neighbour who was selling, and I went, how long does it take to sell in Spain? And she went, 2 years. I went, what? 2 years? I thought you were about to say 2 weeks or 2 months, 2 years. But apparently it takes a lot quicker now because the market's a bit more buoyant. But kind of, so this is why it's important to understand your market at this point in time, wherever you are. And it can be different for everybody. But what really, and I was like, so what am I expecting? And he told me a figure, and I went, yeah, that's all right for me. But the worst thing he said, especially in a market like that, because it had just started emerging, and a market like we've got just now was, I tell you what though, we'll test the market and we'll put it on at 20,000 more. Yeah, this is not the time to test markets. If you're wanting certainty, you've got to price strategically. Overpriced homes at this point in time stagnate fast.
Absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, if you have overpriced it as well, what will happen is the reverse of what you want, because ideally what you want is to have it strategically priced so that you get strong early interest as well, because strong early interest, multiple viewers actually will lead to multiple offers, and actually the better price for you, of course. Yep. It'll just keep growing. Exactly.
Potentially. And this is the classic example about how it got used on me years and years ago. I've maybe spoken about it before, but I've not recently. I remember going to buy a 3-bedroom semi-detached, and it was really low priced at that time. I thought, wow, that's a brilliant price. So I went in the door, and then I realised there was thousands and thousands of pounds of work to do with, repair works and all the rest of it for woodworm and damp and all the rest of that. I thought, okay, that's why it's priced like that. But it was still way below that. It could have been priced higher and still would have sold, but they priced it deliberately lower in order to attract more people through the door at the lower value. Therefore, it automatically went to a closing date, and we had to pay about 25% more. And that, for me, is how they strategically got away with getting a better price, by attracting everybody through the door at a lower price point, a lower entry point, I would say, attracting people through the door, got everybody through the door. Everybody knew everybody else was going through the door. So it went to a closing date and job done. Just like that. Do you think I guaranteed I would conclude? Absolutely, because I knew everybody else was waiting in the sidelines, in the wings. Definitely, every single time.
Yeah, it's a good position to be in, and it's a strong position to be in as a seller as well.
So I think you're right. Strong early interest often leads to multiple offers and price growth.
100%.
But I think the best buyers typically act early in spring, and not in the late spring. They don't leave it too late, and they just jump on it straight away. Now, we have noticed this recently, haven't we? There tends to be an upsurge in the market. Everybody's coming back online. The nights are getting lighter. The days are getting longer, and that is where the buying opportunities start, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more so because actually, I think people are becoming more educated as well on the length of time that it takes to conclude a property. At the moment, conveyancing is taking anything between 8 and 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you think about it realistically, you may be moving because you want to start new school catchment in the summertime. So you need to get moving now.
Yeah, you do. It's quite surprising when you hear that. It's like, but we're only in the beginning of the spring. If not, we're just edging into it. And then we've got to go now to get everything sorted before the term starts for the new term of the schools. Wow. But that could happen sometimes because of mortgage delays, and maybe more information is needed by the mortgage provider. Maybe your buyer falls through for your house and you're reliant on that selling to get the next one. This is why it's so important to have an agent that could potentially manage a sale for you and manage that process, especially if you've got a chain. They've got to build as a result, and it doesn't necessarily involve them, but a good agent should keep in touch with other ones to make sure the chain's still intact. I think that's the most important thing. The thing that I would take out of this, the one, and just to about pricing right from day one, is I think it's momentum it creates value. Hesitation destroys it. Learn this phrase in everything in the estate agency. Time kills all deals. Time kills all deals. If you're hoping that person that put a no interest on your property 5 months ago is probably going to buy your property or come back to it, time kills all deals. You probably find it's away by now. Even 5 weeks ago, possibly they've lost interest, or they would have done something with it straight away. Time kills all deals. You need to strike while the iron's hot and go for it. So the conclusion of this, Sophie, how do we conclude this? Does Spring reward the prepared seller?
Now, as we mentioned at the beginning, Spring doesn't sell homes. It's the preparation that goes on that does. It's everything that we've just discussed, all of that beforehand, that prep work, that is what is going to sell your home from your curb appeal, from the very get-go, whether they do that drive-by before the viewing, maximizing that light to really showcase the space, being harsh with yourself and decluttering and really showing everything that that home has to offer, fixing the obvious. And then, as we've just discussed, pricing with confidence. Now, you obviously then need to position your home wherever every seller wants to be. So you want as many viewings as possible in a controlled, obviously, manner, but you want as many viewings as possible to be able to negotiate that best price. You want a stronger emotional connection. You want that with your agent from the very get-go because they are helping you with your journey. So you need that relationship because it's your biggest asset in life. You want faster offers, but offers that have got their due diligence done. Where is that buyer coming from? How are they funding the property? What is their timescale look like? So yes, we want faster offers, but we want offers that are going to pull through. And then that higher final sale price, what is your agent doing to absolutely maximize? So yes, we price it accordingly and realistically, but what are they doing to negotiate that best price so there isn't any money left on the table at the end? They are getting that best price.
So Perrie, how would you then sum this up then?
I think for me, absolutely, if you're a seller, don't wait for buyers to see the potential. You have to see that potential in your home and you have to be prepared and look at it with a new lens. Don't look at it from, I've lived here for 15 years and we love it, it'll sell easily. Be quite ruthless and honest with yourself and just think about the fact that you may have looked at properties online. What did you like and what did you not like? Because those rules will apply to your own home as well. So be honest with yourself, be prepared, and have that structure and get some really good advice.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put a couple of things in here actually for potentially for buyers, and sellers will be buyers anyway. It's like you've got top secret properties. We've got a link in there now. We have top secret properties. You could potentially see them or hear about them before they actually even get on the market. Way before pre-portal as well. So there's a top secret link in here as well to register yourself and actually tell us in advance, and we could maybe tell you in advance anything potentially coming up. There's also a quick 30-second valuation tool in here which gives you a quick valuation of your house and give you a rough idea about where your house sits in terms of the valuation, because you'd be surprised at how much house prices have gone up in the last 5 years. Quite an astronomical price in comparison, and that could allow you to find your dream home. Let me explain. If you're in your dream home, your home right now, if you were renting it, would you continue to still live in that home if you were renting that home, or would you move somewhere else to rent? If the answer to that is you would stay there, you're in your dream home. If the answer to that is no, I would move somewhere else if I was renting it, then you're not in your dream home. Let us find that for you. These tools are there for you. This information is there for you as well. Until next time, guys, thanks very much for watching. If you need to message us, you can click on the link, you message on the post as well. And until next time, it's bye-bye from us at Fife Properties TV. Bye-bye for